Calvin's influence was spreading like a wildfire throughout Europe, whose educational institutions were spreading rapidly. But in France, another movement was rising that was designed to crush all the influence of the Protestant Reformation. In the University of Paris, also known as La Sorbonne, a Spanish nobleman and former soldier was gathering together a number of men to form a new order to save the papacy of being a past relic. This Spanish Basque name was Don Inigo Lopez de Recalde, who was born at the castle of Loyola in Spain. He is better known as Ignatius de Loyola, and this monk soldier in 1534, at the age of 40, was to gather in one of the oldest churches in France a group of men who called themselves the Society of Jesus. The men in black were labeled as the Jesuits by their Protestant enemies, either in Germany or in France, but the name, which had stigma at first, stuck, and they wore it as a badge of honor. Ignatius presented his credentials to Pope Paul III in 1540, and they were only meant to exist for a temporary basis, but they were so successful that they continued and were titled the Militari Regimini, the militant regiment of the Church, the shock troops of Rome. They took over the Inquisition, and though they produced a number of intellectuals and academic institutions, what they couldn't cope with intelligently, they destroyed. Why doesn't the generation of today know anything about them or European history? The Jesuits have learned to cover their tracks by carefully going into libraries and second-hand bookshops and destroying works that would enlighten anyone of their operations. But I believe that in the end, the truth will conquer. And before we go into France, let us briefly look at Asia. The Jesuits spread all over Asia, especially into Japan, where they infiltrated themselves into the samurai culture and formed an alliance with one of Japan's dictators, the shogun Oda Nobunaga. Many of these Jesuits were welcomed into the courts, for they were gifted and skilled at the sciences, but that was a wedge to control the culture in Asia. But many Japanese leaders caught wind of the Jesuit agenda, and they knew it was not to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ, but it was an agenda of papal-led Western imperialism, and many of the Jesuits were massacred in record numbers by the samurai culture of Japan. Today the Jesuits call these men martyrs, but secular writer Avram Manhattan, unlike most secular sympathetic papal apologists, knew exactly why the Japanese beheaded and expelled the Jesuits from their islands, and he gave the true historical account of what really took place. Manhattan said the Jesuits were determined to plant the spiritual and cultural power of the church in Southeast Asia. They attempted with varied success to influence the cultural and political top echelons of society. These missionaries found a powerful protector in Nobunaga, the military dictator of Japan. Japanese civil rulers began to realize that the Catholic Church was not only a religion, but a political power intimately connected with the imperialist expansion of Catholic countries like Portugal, Spain, and other Western nations. Whenever Japanese Catholics formed a majority, the Buddhists and members of other local faiths suffered. Not only were they boycotted, but their temples were closed, and when not destroyed, were seized and converted into churches. In 1587, Hideyoshi visited Kyushu, and to his astonishment found that the Catholic community had carried out the most appalling religious persecution. Everywhere he saw the ruins of Buddhist temples and broken Buddhist idols. The Catholics, in fact, had forcibly attempted to make the whole island of Kyushu totally Catholic. But the Italian Catholic director Martin Scorsese has been working on a project for 10 years, a film called Silence that portrays the Jesuits as martyrs in Japan, due for release in November 2015, and it will star Liam Neeson and Spider-Man Andrew Garfield, who, as the English Catholic press confirms, is studying Jesuit books to prepare him for the leading role in this film.